Enter the Matrix was a title, guys, that I played all the way back in 2003 when this game released, and I've got to say, guys, I absolutely loved what they were going for, that being the developers, being Shiny Entertainment, of course, the Wachowskis, being the directors of Enter the Matrix. They were also the directors, of course, of the original trilogy. They're going to also be directing none other than The Matrix 4, and I wanted to talk about what happened here to Enter the Matrix, and why haven't we gotten an Enter the Matrix 2? Could we see a continuation of this IP with the release of The Matrix 4? And, you know, I kind of want to break it down, want to go ahead and give some speculation as well as just some rumblings and talks of what could be coming, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about this in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So according to the Wikipedia page, guys, for Enter the Matrix, it was released in 2003, the same month as The Matrix Reloaded. Enter the Matrix was simultaneously produced with The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions and released for the GameCube, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. So this was a game, guys, that, you know, came out a long time ago. And what we can obviously, you know, tell here is that, you know, coming out in 2003, it was made and brought out the same month as The Matrix Reloaded. And, you know, it was kind of produced with, you know, the Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions in mind and such. And what I'm going to say is that usually when we talk about, you know, what happened to a series, an IP in particular, a lot of it comes down to two things, and we've always talked about this. Number one is, of course, the sales, because really, you know, at the end of the day, guys, they want to know and make sure that they're making enough to justify a sequel. Number two is the critical reception. If it's, you know, just reception in general, is it good, is it bad, and so on and so forth. But here's the thing. You know, the reason why I brought this up, you know, very first, that being Enter the Matrix was simultaneously produced with The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, is because when we think of those other two, you know, titles outside of, or movies outside of the original The Matrix, people don't really think that Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions were very good whatsoever. Now, me personally, guys, I liked the Matrix Reloaded. A lot of the graphics and such I just didn't feel were, in the, you know, CGI that they used within the Matrix Reloaded, I just felt it was, you could tell in so many instances throughout the course of the movie where they were using CGI and how it just didn't really look very good. However, I liked the concepts that were in the Matrix Reloaded. Sure, not as good as the Matrix, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was better than what most people were saying. Now, the Matrix Revolutions was really an unfortunate step in the wrong direction in a major way. I think that was definitely a valley for the Matrix as a franchise, and I'm hoping that, you know, they get it right, that being the Wachowskis with the Matrix 4. But I think with Enter the Matrix coming out the same month as The Matrix Reloaded, that right there hurt it. Even though I think Enter the Matrix was great. I absolutely loved this title, guys. It was awesome being able to do bullet time and such. Kind of gave you these Max Payne vibes, but like Max Payne on steroids in Enter the Matrix. But it coming out, being produced, you know, with, you know, The Matrix Reloaded and then obviously The Matrix Revolutions, that right there, guys, with those two titles, that's just, not necessarily saying it's dead on arrival, but people aren't going to give it a chance because, you know, of the critical reception that was The Matrix Reloaded and the real bad backlash of The Matrix Revolutions. Now, like I said, though, it comes down to, guys, you know, a lot of the reception as well as just, you know, how much this game made. Well, by February 2004, global sales of Enter the Matrix across all systems had surpassed 4 million units, according to Atari. By July 2006, the PlayStation 2 version of Enter the Matrix had sold 1.2 million copies and earned 58 million in the United States. Next Generation ranked it as the 39th highest-selling game launched for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, or GameCube between January 2000 and July 2006 in that country. Combined sales of Enter the Matrix console releases reached 1.9 million units in the United States by July 2006. Worldwide, the game sold 5 million units. So when you hear 5 million units, guys, and you gotta put it into into context here. Back then, in 2003, guys, when this game was released, 5 million units, sure, you give it a few years, but 5 million units is pretty good. I mean, especially for a first title and an IP like this. Now, as far as how much it cost them to make it, it's hard to say, but for 5 million units, guys, for a brand new IP, even though they're using, the Matrix and kind of putting they're encompassing everything around those concepts from the Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, even things from the Matrix itself. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good number. So for me, at least, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily the amount that they made off of Enter the Matrix. I would say it was actually more so probably the reception, but the real critical reception to the movies is actually what met the demise of Enter the Matrix. So as far as Enter the Matrix, it received mixed or average reviews according to video game review aggregator Metacritic. So what we can see from the reception that was Enter the Matrix, we can kind of see that, there were certain places that gave it really good reviews, like, for example, Game Informer gave it an 8.5 out of 10, which is really good. But then you got Eurogamer giving it a 4 out of 10. You got GameSpot giving it a 6.4 out of 10, which is okay. IGN 7.2 out of 10. So overall, I would say yes, it was definitely averaged, and some of it was mixed, because that's a big discrepancy between 8.5 out of 10 from Game Informer and Eurogamer gave it a 4 out of 10. So there's a lot of discrepancy. Now, here's what I will say though. I will say that it's pretty much like an average when it comes to the reception, pretty average. So I don't think it was necessarily poor. I wouldn't say it was great either. It was just kind of, middle of the group, so to speak, when it comes to, other games that you can compare it to. But Enter the Matrix had a lot of really interesting concepts. I thought that they did a great job with this game. I thought it was a very fun game, guys. Back in 2003, it was awesome. Even from a graphical standpoint, I thought the graphics were pretty good for what it was, and I thought that, just overall, I enjoyed it. Bullet time was obviously the main thing, but it was really cool being able to go into this world and really kind of go into this living, breathing, space in Enter the Matrix, and it was really a fun experience to me, at least. But I think that what met the demise of Enter the Matrix, now this is going to lead us to, will we see Enter the Matrix 2 at some point? I think that they would have made or continued to make Enter the Matrix games had the reception of the movies been better. The Matrix Reloaded, guys, did not do very well from a reception perspective. Some people enjoyed it, like myself. Lots of people did not, though. Matrix Revolutions, I think overall most people did not like the Matrix Revolutions. They've tried different things in each of those movies, but I felt that, the Matrix, the reason why it was so well received by everyone was just because it was pretty grounded. It was kind of like the origins and everything of the Matrix, and I thought that they could have taken a lot of those things to the next level. And the Matrix Reloaded, I feel like they tried too hard with CGI and such, instead of maybe using more practical effects. And the Matrix Revolutions, they even took it to even a more, extreme place. Now, the Wachowskis coming back to work on Matrix 4. You've got Keanu Reeves returning as Neo, which is awesome. You got pretty much the cast is returning, which is great to hear. It's not going to be like new cast members, because you would think that Keanu Reeves, after what was that original trilogy and how, critical people were of, especially the Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, you would almost think like Keanu would want to stay away from that. But there must be something special about what the Wachowskis are cooking up for the Matrix 4. Now that leads me to Enter the Matrix 2. Will we see it, guys? I actually think that there's a good chance that we may see a sequel to Enter the Matrix if the Matrix 4 does, pretty good from a reception perspective. It may bring back Enter the Matrix. Now, one thing that we may see is Enter the Matrix come back as like a remastered version, and they add some things to it. Maybe not necessarily a true sequel like Enter the Matrix 2. Maybe it will be just Enter the Matrix remastered or something of that nature, just to kind of bring out or release around the same time as the Matrix 4, especially if, Shiny Entertainment or whoever ends up making the game, whether it's Warner Brothers Games or whatever it might be, especially if, this Enter the Matrix 2 or, 2.0 or remastered, whatever you want to call it, especially if that along with The Matrix 4 is kind of something that Shiny Entertainment and Warner Brothers and such feel that there's something special there. I think Enter the Matrix will come back. I would love to see it. It would definitely, it gets you all excited, because I remember when The Matrix Reloaded came out that same month, back when Enter the Matrix was released, just by watching The Matrix Reloaded, it got me to want to keep playing Enter the Matrix, even though I know The Matrix Reloaded was not as good. It was definitely a downgrade from the original Matrix movie, but Enter the Matrix I thought was great. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, I thought Enter the Matrix was great. It was a way to kind of go into that world, and I would love to see them further explore the Matrix within Enter the Matrix, having, single-player modes, multiplayer co-op. Like, that would be absolutely awesome. So do I think it'll happen? It's really hard to say, guys. It's been so long. You would almost feel like Enter the Matrix would be like a reboot or like a remastered version. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Enter the Matrix. Do you guys want to see this return with The Matrix 4 being released? Let me know. And for more Enter the Matrix content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.